Hey, so I've had a few people asking how I edit my photos. This photo that I recently took at a training day, especially a few people have been asking me how it was done. So I just thought I would do a quick little video to show how I see things. So the original photo actually looks like this. And for more impact, I decided actually I don't particularly want a rather dashing groom here. So my first step, and again I've already got an idea in mind for how I want to style this shot. So the first step is to get rid of this hand. So all we do is come up over here and get this tool and just move this around so it looks a bit more realistic, because otherwise people will notice. So if we look at following that line on, we can see that somewhere about there isn't going to be too distracting. I could go into Photoshop and seriously make it exact, but I don't think it's that distracting. And I also don't really take that many things out of my photos. It's just this particular shot I only want to have the bride in hindsight. So if I turn that off, nice and simple. The next thing is, obviously this was taken at pretty wide angle. This was taken at 24mm, looking down with the flash going. So it wasn't the straightest of shots straight out of camera. So if we just crop and use our ruler tool, and if you use a door frame or something that you know should be level, unless the builder's rubbish, you should be able to square it up quite nicely. Sadly, straight away we can see that we have lost some detail now with the lights up there, but it also does help a little bit in focusing our subject. Okay, great. So I've got a look that I'm after. Now I actually use develop presets, and all of these have actually been edited to be more like what I want them to be. I want this to be black and white. I don't want it to be crazy grainy, but the sort of feel I'm after would be a HP5, black and white, and probably 400 ISO or ASA if you're really old school. So if we click on this, okay, so at the moment it's brought this in, and you know, it looks okay. It's not too bad at all, to be honest. Obviously, apart from a missing hand, but there are some tweaks that I would like to do. So for a start, we'll bring the clarity up a little bit so that we can see more detail in the dress. And again, in my own mind, I've decided how I want this to be all basically pitch black. Okay, so I'm not too fussed about details around here. I'm only worried about the bride and the dress at the moment with these global settings. Okay, so I don't particularly want to have a crazy amount of grain. So if I come down to grain, I literally only have a tiny bit in there. Okay, so that's sort of getting there. So we can up the contrast, and in fact we can bring down the blacks a little bit, and we're starting to get a sort of a look that we're after. So now if I head over to our brush and I decide that it's going to be pretty dark, let's see how this goes. Get a nice big brush and just burn all of this. And again, I'm not being too gentle about it, because I just want all the focus to be on that dress. Now at the moment, that's not too bad. We've done a nice spread over everything, made it nice and dark. What I will do though is I'll come over here, I'll right click, and I will duplicate. So straight away now it's seriously dark, and if we do a comparison, we can see it's almost identical. In fact, there's hardly anything in it. So the only thing is there is a tiny little bit more detail. So if I bring this up and I duplication, then that is fantastic. If I come down to the mask, I can see that it's done a pretty clean job around here, but it isn't the cleanest job. So I'll head over to my brush again, go to erase, make it a bit smaller so I've got a bit more control, and just start to ease away at these edges. Okay, so now if we go back, there we are. So we've got a nice little hint of something here. All the focus is on our bride and her beautiful dress. And that is pretty much how I edit. Get an idea in your mind first and go from there. So yeah, that's how I edit that photo.